Hello, everyone. We're back at Coffee with Founders. Today we have Mari from Casa Gioia. Mari, thank you so much for being here today. It's a pleasure to have you. She is a baker. She has built an amazing brand with amazing desserts, great menu. She also did something really, really creative and different this past year with the pandemic. So, Mari, why don't we start with you, your story? Why did you start Casa Gioia? Who are you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Republic, so I'm a proud Dominican. I lived there until I was 18. Back when I was a kid, literally like 8 years old, I've always wanted to be a chef. Like I always said that clearly that I wanted to be a chef. So my goal was to come here to study because in my country there wasn't a big deal like it is now. So there were very few courses, but didn't count as a career. Whatever, we decided to come here to Johnson and Wales in North Miami. Um, and again, focus only culinary. I I hated baking and pastry. I always said that I wanted to do culinary, focus on meats, move to Argentina, Buenos Aires specifically, and like just
Wow.
run on meat. Yeah, yeah, and that I would never have my own business because that's too much work. So I'm a perfect example of karma and the opposite, right? So I went to school. I did the associates in culinary arts, and I did my bachelor's in food service management with a concentration in events and sales management. During my college years, I lived in Italy for a while because I went to do an internship. Um, I lived there in 2010, and I was working at a hotel in Puglia in the south part of Italy. Gorgeous place, one of the best things I've ever done. So I went home for the holidays, and it was going to be like a 2 month break. And I can't be sitting still doing nothing. I can't. So one of my best friends from high school, she was living there at the moment. She became known for her brownie. And so she goes like, Mary, because my friends call me Mary. Mary, why don't you sell something with me? Like, so you can do something, bake. So I tested this recipe of pecan pie. I started working on the recipe and tweaking it because I never follow a recipe. So I was tweaking it and whatever, and trying to find the right package for like the holiday season and whatever and whatnot. Next thing we knew, we were started doing bazaars and we did some markets. And then back then, right after I graduated, I was going through a phase of do I still want to be in culinary? Do I want to go to event planning? Do I want to do like management? So I was like all over the place, literally.
That was my question, and I don't want to interrupt you, but
No,
did
no,
you
please.
think when you make that plan or when you told your father, "Don't worry about me, I'll figure it out," were you thinking that culinary or even baking was going to be something that could
Everything.
help you out, or you were going to do something different?
Like I literally didn't. So I just started applying to a bunch of hotels and to a bunch of event planning companies, and of course, my whatever little experience I had was only in culinary. So I did a bunch of interviews and all these things, and I was kind of frustrated because I remembered the pecan pie, and I remembered the thing, and my mom and my aunt always wanted to like a long time ago. They were like, "You should start doing desserts here," and I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna have my own business, and no, I'm gonna go to Buenos Aires and do meat. Like that's just I'm gonna be a butcher." And so I started doing that from home. Like after I feel like selling to friends and close friends and whatever, we decided to like, okay, let's make a business out of this, right? So why not? And then a year after, we were looking for a commercial space, and then here we are 8 years later.
Well, it's funny how everything just literally fall into what it is today, and you had no clue where you were going to end. Before we get into the specifics, I don't want to forget, and you mentioned it, Joya, where does the word come from? Why do you want to bring it into the business concept and idea? And then we'll get into what's the business, what do you do, mom, aunt, and everything else.
Yeah. No, okay. So gioia means joy in Italian, right? Which is something that I realized years after I had, lived there. When I moved to Italy, I took a couple of courses of Italian, and I also learned on the go because no one spoke English or Spanish or French, just Italian. So I learned. But that was a word that I had heard many times, but I had never really paid attention to. So this colleague of mine at the hotel, every morning he would say to me and my roommate, like my best friend, she's like, "Buongiorno, bella gioia." I realized that the word gioia meant joy, and every morning he was calling me a beautiful joy.
Right.
And so I fell in love with the word, like the word, the way it's spelled. I fell in love with what it meant. Want to be part of my purpose in life to bring joy to people in any shape or form, flavor, size, whatever. And so the one thing that I knew for sure when we first started this business was that it had to have the word Gioia in it somehow. So it's like, okay, Casa Gioia, work from home. I mean, happy, like House of Joy. So it's like, it all makes, and it just fell into place.
Yeah, it sounds awesome, and it's and it's just beautiful. It's just a
Right?
beautiful word.
I think it's a cute story too. It's like, hey, you're calling me a
It
beautiful joy
is.
every morning,
It
right?
actually is. It actually is. And he brings that joy. I mean, it's always important to keep that joy in the business, and make sure that you're enjoying it, because it's a long journey, and we're gonna get into it now. And that's where I want to start getting into when you guys decided, your mom and your aunt, that you were gonna start this business. How was that process when you talk about started doing it from home and then going into a commercial space 8 years ago? How was that? Why did you guys decide at Coral Gables? How was that process to actually start the business, the physical business that you guys built?
Very difficult. Evan, I was a 21-year-old. I had never worked in my life. The only thing that I knew um, was what I learned in school, that most people do a business on things they learned at school. O sea, like, I didn't study pastry, so on top of learning how to run a business, I had to, you know,
Learn the base.
learn by
Yeah.
myself how to do desserts other than pecan pie because you can live off of that only. So like other things. And then my mom, when she moved here, of course, going through the divorce, and she also had some health issues. And then my aunt, she's been in business for a really long time, but not in the hospitality industry, you know?
And you were taking it basically one step at a time. You didn't know what the business was going to require you. So, of course, you weren't ready. And I want to talk about those transitions. First off, I want to talk about the transition from culinary to pastry chef, right? You had to basically teach yourself or learn everything to be able to do what you guys do today, which everything is amazing. Pretty much what I've tried is incredible. When did you realize it was time to start prepping on packaging and everything to be able to, go to bigger accounts and restaurants and whatnot?
Um, Now that I think about it, I don't know when that chip switched in terms of like, okay, now culinary, now it's pastry. It just kind of grew on me. Now that I think about it, when I was uh, in butchery class in school, I wasn't the best. And I wasn't like, I wasn't very happy to cut down a pig, like, and and break down
Wow.
a chicken, which is something that for someone that wanted to do meat and Buenos Aires, that's something that should be like in your
You
book.
may
Right.
want
Yeah.
to,
I
yeah.
look forward to it. Now that I think about it, I was kind of, disgusted by it.
Yeah.
But so maybe that was something that was always there, but just dormant.
And I think that's very interesting because, and now that you mention it, like a lot of times we think that creating a business, you have to have a perfect business plan. And at least that's what I tell you, they tell you in schools. It's like, you need to have this and you need to have these other things. And, your story is like the total opposite. You had no idea what you were going to do. You were picturing something different. And, to most businesses, you're still just being alive 8 years later is very successful. Not many businesses make it through 1 year or 2 years. And so it's very impressive, that you're doing that. And it's actually motivating for a lot of people and us that we're starting, and because it's scary. It's a scary time. It's a lot of work that we got to put into it. And seeing you grow that way, and having that business consistent, it's just amazing. So I just wanted to stop you there and congratulate you, because I think it's really cool to hear it.
It's also been a blessed business because, like you said, I didn't even have a business plan. I didn't have a fine. I started this business with $50 from my allowance from when my dad used to, like, pay things for me. So it's not like I was like, okay, I have, because I've been dreaming about this business for the longest time, so I have this money saved up to start a business. No, I literally started it with $50, no financial backup. no business plan, no idea what I was doing, not even business wise, but like the actual product that I'm selling. So and so, yeah, so what you said is that most people, which is the way it should be, you should have a structure, you should have a game plan.
There's an ingredient in that recipe that's working. So I would definitely keep doing that.
Yeah, no, if you have to look back, 5 years, and this whole process, this whole journey, these past 8 years since you started, what do you think it's been the key for you to stay in business, to being where you are today after all those things that could have gone wrong? And if you talk to many business advisors or anybody or consultants or whatever, they will put you in the fail pile instead of the success pile.
For sure.
So what do you think is that success? What have you done that has made you successful?
I'm very spiritual, so I think this is a very blessed business. Like there's something greater than me, protecting us and guiding us. But of course, also the support of my aunt and my mom. Like they're the ones that, because sometimes I feel like, you know what? Why am I even doing this? Because everyone, no business, no entrepreneur has a linear process. It's like, okay, so I'm the best. I'm the best. Oh no, I suck at this. What am I doing? I have to quit. And if it's something that this is your first business, when you go through that, don't stop. That I came to know through Instagram, people that just read something about me somewhere else and became like loyal customers and they send me all this great energy and all this great and all these blessings, all these great things for me that's what I think is my key to success. Is just give good, and everything around you will just go. And of course, learn from your mistakes. Like it's not only just unicorns and confetti.
Sure.
You have to also take okay, so I did this wrong. Learn from it.
And you said something very interesting, Mary. You were talking about support. You're talking about your team, the loyalty of your clients, what you're giving out. You're basically just receiving. But you're also talking about the ups and downs, right? Staying consistent with your product, with your attitude, with the mission of your company, right? During those very hard times. I want to talk about those hard times specifically last year. During the pandemic, we noticed your brand was doing something different. How you decided that you had to reinvent yourself and you had to move to digital and you had to do something different to stay top of mind, to talk to people. Tell me a little bit about that process.
So when the pandemic hit last year, it was horrible on everybody, of course. And during the first month, where no one knew what was going to happen, and it was all so new, we decided to close because my mom, which is the one that's with me in like at the kitchen, she's a high risk patient, and so is my aunt. And so we were like, we can't afford to have them around people because since it's a shared space, and also with the clients and in and out and whatever. So we decided to close for a month. And obviously, any business that's closed for a month, not having any income, sucks. And also, during that month that we were closed, I saw a lot of well-structured businesses, a lot of, like long-standing businesses close.
Yeah.
And I was like, if that's them, like
Gonna happen to us,
right? But it was a very hard month. Like I had a lot of sleepless nights because there are responsibilities that we have as well. So, but that gave me a time to rethink, kind of like, okay, let me just adapt. Let me just revamp the things that I had. So before COVID, we had pretty much everything like one size and like big size for sharing mostly. And of course, I thought, okay, now there's no big gatherings. People are like maybe one or two together right at the beginning. So it's like, it's more of a person, a cake for 10 people. No one's going to want a cake for 10 people if they only want just there's only the two of you,
that little
right?
piece, right?
So it's like, okay, so what I did was I didn't do anything big, but it did make a huge impact because people felt like they had more options now. So instead of only having a one size cake that was for 30 people, I started doing cakes for 6 people as well. Instead of doing things again made for sharing, I turned them into like individual portions, more approachable for people that wanted something sweet, but first couldn't spend too much money because, people were unemployed or they were counting every penny with every good reason.
Right.
And I know I'm not indispensable. Like I'm not, I'm a treat. I'm not like bread or
Right.
formula.
It's a luxury
And
to have a dessert if
Yeah.
you're going through a pandemic and stuck at home.
And of course, I'm also very conscious that yeah, I love her stuff, but if I can't afford it, I'm gonna go to Publix and buy a $5 cake, you know? So it's like, so I was very accommodating about that. And it was great. We also started selling like things to do at home. Like the cookies that we make, we sold them frozen for you to make at home. Like we just started doing all these different things and adjusting. We started doing a curbside pickup. So in terms of business wise, that was one thing. I also did some IGTV videos of cooking videos because I have a YouTube channel as well. So I started doing that, and that was amazing, which led me to doing the classes online with my friend that I talked about, my best friend from high school, that we did the desserts back home.
Yeah.
We are meant to be partners, and because she's a marketer, and so she lives in Nashville now, and she's like the corporate world, like she knows all. She's very visionary when it comes to those things, and I've always wanted to teach because as you can see, I love to talk, but also I love to teach. Like I want people to understand the whys of things and see it the way that I do, because I really try to make it as simple as possible. So I love teaching, but I never had the opportunity because didn't have the space for it, because it was before COVID. It was like everything in person, and I don't have my own space. So she was like, Mary, let's do this. Like, you need to start doing this because it's a trend, and it's going to be great because it's going to be like a trial for you to see if you actually really like the whole concept before you engage into like you becoming a teacher and like having courses in person,
Right.
and it's like a guinea pig thing. And there's nothing to lose if if it doesn't work, doesn't work. And so it took her a couple of like, sweet talks and whatever to get me to it. She goes, no, you don't need to do anything. I mean, like, of course you need to do a lot, but like, I'm going to be on the other side of she's in Nashville. I'm going to be on the other side of the computer. I'm going to like, do the marketing side of it. I'm going to talk to the people and just focus on doing great recipes and having people have a good time. And I was like, okay, right,
That
Joy.
sounds like a good team.
Just tell me
Right?
what you're
No.
teaching and I'll promote it. So
Yeah, we're a really good team. Like we compensate each other very, very well. And so the first thing that we decided to do was Dominican cake, which is something that I started becoming known for, the Dominican cake, which also it's something that I said that I would never do when I started the business. So when I started the business, my mom was
It keeps repeating.
I'm telling you, I don't say no anymore, because my mom used to tell me, you should do tres leches, because tres leches, it's very popular here, but not everyone does it right. Like, the ego in the chef, that every chef can tell you, it's like, no, that's too basic. Like, I'm not gonna do tres leches. And then she goes like, you should also do cakes. And I'm like, I don't like cakes. Like, I'm just gonna do something. Because I started with pies. I'm like, no, cakes, no. There's a bunch of bakers that do cakes. So what am I most known for right now? Tres leches and the cakes.
Cakes.
Yeah, and so we started doing like the brunch menus, where like kind of incorporating the things, because of course some people that don't know me and they see this, they're like, but why is a pastry chef going to teach me how to make, I don't know, a frittata? Like, it doesn't make. So what I did was I kind of like made it the most appealing part of the class to be something that people know me for, desserts, and then added a little bit of savory so they could see, oh, she's like good at this too. So next time that I see a class, I won't be like doubting if I should take it or not, because she can cover it all, which is something good. And the thing that I loved the most about this part of the classes, was that the feedback was really good, even though my first class was kind of a disaster, because something wrong with the audio, something wrong with the camera, and I had like 30 people logged in, and they were like, and yeah, and no one with me physically. Oh my god, yes. And my first class, well, yeah, I was teaching how to make meringue, el chupito, like
yes.
I'm not gonna do it by hand. I have like my, like the KitchenAid, right?
Right.
Well, and it's done with a whisk attachment. Guess what? I left in my kitchen that day, the whisk attachment. And I only realized it when I was in the middle of the class, because we took like a 5-minute break so we can clean out for the second round. And I am literally like doing the dishes, trying to clean it out and I go like, I turn white.
Always.
And I'm like, These people are here mostly because of suspiro, because I love suspiro, and it's the one thing that I can make by hand because it's an Italian, like it's a whole complication.
Right.
I don't have a whisk, and I don't have a backup here at home. And I was like, okay, guys. So I was very honest. I'm like, this is my first class, and I totally forgot the whisk. So let's just do things the opposite. Let's start by the end. So tell me how you guys are doing. Like it just flew. It just like it was very chill. Like everything just went with the flow, and they were super forgiving and super. And we just made we just made a joke out of it because what else are gonna do? I'm really good at making fun of myself. I'm really good at it. So I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna be a joke, and I take it because it's on me, and everything went perfectly. And then after that, of course, the whisk never missed, and people were just like, even so now they were like, when are you gonna teach classes again? Like I do want to have a little make it so I can have like a little school, not school because that would evolve with time, but I want to have a little space where I can bring people over and have it in person,
Right.
COVID permitting. Because it's a completely different experience, of course, but still, it's something that I'm really interested in. I really love it. And, you never know what that can take you. Yeah.
Mary, Orlando asked you about what has worked in the past or what you felt has been your key or one of the keys to being successful. I want to ask you the opposite. What do you think has been your biggest challenge? Think about Mary as a business owner, as a person that works with family, as a person that now needs to delegate and let other people cook because she can't do it all.
Everything. I mean, it's a fruitful and rewarding challenge, but everything has been a challenge. First of all, figuring out what is it that I want to do. How do I want to go about it, right? Second of all, um, when I first started doing this, I started. You guys are also immigrants, so you're not from here. You come from Venezuela. I come from DR. We pretty much roll the same way. Starting a business is hard, but starting a business in somewhere that's not your country, somewhere where there's a different culture, somewhere where you don't know much about it, it's even harder. So I was in a I was fortunate, but also kind of had the handicap of starting in Miami, where there's a lot of Latin businesses, and there's only so much they knew, and they were open to knowing. Like only certain kinds of desserts, like pastelitos, or like um, it was a very narrow concept. Even though I hooked them when they tried it, it took me a really long time to make them try it and to make them see that there are other ways to eat desserts. It's not so when you bring something else that's completely different for a different flavor profile, it's like, but why should I go with this? Like who is she? Because no one knew about me.
Okay.
Financials are always because that was kind of a thing for me because I severely underpriced my stuff. I didn't put the value was worth it. I did some great errors, and by great I do mean great. Like I really outdid myself with those mistakes, but it was unknowingly. Um, and at first, not having a plan, that was also a problem. But I was able to manage it through. It's not the best way. I don't recommend that, but I'm grateful enough that I was able to, navigate through that. And it's also very frustrating. It was for me a little bit frustrating because this was my only source of income. So when I
Well, but it's important to say that it's subjective, right? And you
It is
understand
subjective.
that because it's a dessert and you're bringing joy to people, but it's your recipe. There
Yeah,
are going to be so
exactly.
many people that it may not be their preference, it may not like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And what happened with the pecan pie? Are you still making that pie?
Yes, the pecan pie I only make it for the holidays. Now because we don't focus anymore on desserts. I mean, oh, sorry, we don't focus anymore on tarts
Okay.
because we have leaned like the business has started kind of leaned into more cakes and like other kinds of things. So what we do is the pecan pie, something else that we're known for, has to be on the menu every Thanksgiving, every December.
Right.
Because otherwise it's just like people start yelling, not yelling, but like they're like, where's my pecan pie?
We're
And
expecting something from you. Don't take it away from me, right?
exactly, like everything, yeah, yeah. So that's something that we still do for the holidays and people love it. And it's still the same recipe. And most of my recipes that I've developed through the years, even the ones that I first started with, I've always tweaked it because as I grow and as I learn more, I only want to, make it better, make it better. And that's the one recipe that I have kept just like the first day.
That's awesome.
Because it's just like, I'm still quite content with the way that recipe works,
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of where it all started too. That's where all
there's
began.
a sentimental,
There's
a sentimental
little bit of
connection
a
to it.
yes. There's a sentiment then. Okay.
Yeah.
Mary, that was great. I mean, we just enjoyed every single second of this conversation with you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for thank you for being here with us today, sharing your story. I think it's just inspiring, and it's just, amazing to see people like you out there, hustling every day and just grinding it out and figuring things out, because we definitely do not know most of the things we do. So and you're a great example of that. But it's awesome to see that, even though things, all the challenges, like you said, everything is a challenge, you've been able to manage it and come through successfully. And it's awesome to see it and share it with people. So thank you for inspiring us and inspiring others that I'm sure that are going to be touched by this.
Thank you. And thank you again for thinking about me and for, taking your time as well to listen to my story. And I wish you a lot of success in this new venture. It's been fun.
Thank you very much. I think part of being, we always say, and Orlando just said it, it's hard to recognize, I guess, or take credit for everything that we've done. But sometimes that's being part of being humble, understanding everything that we've done and how hard we've worked. So I think it's one of those times that you need to recognize, look back and say, I made mistakes, but I've done great things. So after 8 years, I have a successful business with my family, and I'm proud of that. So we were very happy to have you here, to meet you, and learn a little bit more about your story, because inspiring stories like you make us want to keep going. So thank you very much, Mary.
Yeah, no, it was very nice to meet you virtually and share this time with you. And again, all the success.
Thank you very much. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday in the next Coffee with Founders.